Again, hello and welcome everyone to Adobe Creative Cloud. My name is Terry White, Worldwide Design and Photography Evangelist. My pleasure today to walk you through some post-processing of my images that I did in Iceland. Just got back a couple of weeks ago. Been back to work and doing all kinds of other cool things. I was on a 3-day live stream at the Adobe headquarters, or actually the San Francisco building, all last week. And I'm just now getting a chance to get back to my regular live streaming studio, at least one for this week. I'll be doing some more next week. And I see a bunch of people I know popping in. And hello, Amber. Hello, Pat. Hello, everyone. Ooh, hello from Reykjavik. All right, we got people even from Iceland here. All right, so without further ado, and I only have a few minutes to cover a lot of things, so let's jump right into it. I'm going to switch over so you guys can see my computer. That's an important part of this. And as you can see, I've got a collection here in Lightroom of about 39, or exactly 39 pieces of content. I call that collection my Iceland 2017 favorites, just like I had last year when I went, my Iceland 2016 favorites, which of course these were all post-processed and worked on and fixed and done all the things to them that I wanted to be done. Most of them, or many of them, are even printed and hanging throughout my house. All right, so, well, not all of them. Some of them are printed. Okay, so, but anyway, I posted a lot to social media, and I got a chance to go back this year, and as you can see, I captured twice as many photos because the trip was literally 2 to 3 times as long as it was last year. I don't have quite as many favorites yet, but I'm still working on it. Let's jump in and see what we can do with some of the favorites that I have so far, or make them favorites, because some of these are just candidates to be favorites. They're not really favorites yet. Some of these I already post-processed, and I did post on social media, but I kind of reset some of them here so that you can get a chance to see what that process was like. Let's start off with something basic. Let's start off with this waterfall shot. I'm going to go full screen so you guys can see it. Now this was a long exposure, probably about, I want to say 1.5 to 2 seconds long for the shutter to be open. Typically it would have been open even longer, but I didn't have my proper neutral density filter. I had one, but not the one I really wanted for this particular lens. And it's just, the old saying goes, no matter how many times you go to Iceland, there's always something you wish you would have brought. So I wish I would have brought my better neutral density filter, which means one that had more stops to it. All right, but anyway, we're gonna take the shot the way it is. It is what we have. It's a beautiful shot, could be better. And I'm gonna show you some things that could be better about it and how we can fix it. So let's go back to where we were. And I'm gonna take that shot and I'm gonna head over to the develop module with it, which is just hitting the letter D on the keyboard. The develop module for Photoshop users would be the same thing as Camera Raw. So if you're saying, hey, I've never used Lightroom before, I don't know what you're doing, where would I find this stuff in Photoshop? It would be in the Camera Raw or the Camera Raw filter. So even if you don't have a RAW file, you can still do most of what I'm going to show you in the Camera Raw filter or in Photoshop proper. Now, one of the things before I even get into adjusting a photo like this, actually there's a couple things. Number one thing I've learned to do, I used to traditionally do it on portraits, but now I'm just kind of doing it across the board, and that is applying a lens correction. Now, this lens correction feature it takes advantage of known lenses and camera combinations. So if you're shooting Nikon, Sony, Canon, whatever, and you pair those bodies with such and such lens, wide angle, telephoto, fisheye, whatever, we know those combinations, and this database is always getting updated. So if I just enable the lens profile correction, that right off the bat usually fixes a few of my problems that I would have with an image. Number one, with most lenses, you're going to have some curvature, some bowing in the image. That just automatically takes it out. If you don't have one of those cameras and lenses that's in the database, you can still go in and manually do it by adjusting the distortion and vignetting slider. But if it's in the database, one click and it just fixes it. So it knew I shot this with a Nikon, it knew which lens I shot this with, and it selected that profile for it automatically to kind of take that curvature out and also take some of that dark vignetting around the edges out for me. All right, next up. There's another thing that's kind of bothering me about this image, and this is more of it just, to me, doesn't seem as straight as I want it. Meaning it's okay, it's a waterfall, it probably was straight, but it just feels like it's leaning a little bit to the left, just maybe it's my eyes. All right, so I'm gonna grab the crop tool, or the crop feature. Now, if I had a horizon line, which we'll see in another photo, I could just either hit auto or just drag the angle tool and it would fix the horizon for me. But I don't really have anything other than maybe the waterfall itself that would be straight, but even this waterfall was probably going to be going out at an angle a little bit. So I just kind of want to adjust this a little bit better. So I'm just going to go ahead and just tilt the image slightly to correct my OCD, just to fix what I think is just a slightly crooked image. Once I hit the R tool to get out of the crop again, to me, I don't know if it was straight to begin with or it's straighter now, but to me that just feels a little bit better. I saw Aaron Roth pop in the stream. Hello, Aaron, how are you? Aaron, and you were on a Wirecast stream recently. I'm using Wirecast right now, thinking of you. All right, but anyway, let's get back to the basics. And now that we're in the basic panel, this is where I would go kind of do some more fine tuning of this image. Again, I think it's a little dark. It could probably use a little bit more contrast, a little bit more vibrance, a little bit more saturated. It basically could use a few things. So one of the things I like to do in Lightroom is give Lightroom a shot at adjusting the dynamic range automatically. And that's kind of one of those few hidden things in Lightroom. Lightroom is mostly exposed. You can mostly see everything. There's really no back doors or hidden features except for this one. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key. I'm going to double click the black or the white point, just double clicking right on the handle, and double click the black point. And that will adjust what it thinks the dynamic range should be. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to always agree, and half the time I don't, but I like to start there because that will usually get me in the range of where I want, and then I can adjust from there. If I don't like it, great, I can keep adjusting. If I don't like it at all, I can reset it, but that kind of gets me in the ballpark. So just by double clicking, it thought that the white should be put to +33 and the black should be put to -16. That was just what it thinks it should be. Now again, I can see that caused a bit of a problem in the highlights and shadows, so I can go ahead and just adjust it a little bit more. And all I'm doing up here in the histogram is as I hover over each area in the histogram, it turns into its own little slider. So I don't have to worry about, let me undo that last one. I don't have to worry about knowing that I need to drag the black slider to fix this. All I do is come over to this area. I see the little highlight warning, and the little blue areas on the image are letting me know that those areas are completely darkened in. There's no data whatsoever left in those areas. They're completely black. So if I drag this a little to the right, that fixes that problem and gets rid of that warning. Same thing over here in the highlights. If I do it there, I can see that there's a bit of a problem in the water. The highlights are blown out in those couple of areas, just a little bit. If I just drag that over just slightly to the left to get rid of the warning, that will fix it. Now, I might save that to last because some of the other adjustments I'm going to do might throw that out of whack again. But I just wanted to point out that you can do that in case I forget to point it out. All right, so what else? Overall, I think the image is still a little dark, so I'm just going to go to exposure. Now, I could just drag the slider over for exposure. Ooh, look, I can brighten it up quite a bit. The problem I have with just dragging the sliders is I tend to overdo it, no matter what slider it is. I just overdo it, just like I'm doing now. I know that's overdoing it, but you get the idea. You can just quickly grab it and oh my God, next thing you know, you're going too far. So let me undo that and let me show you the way I prefer to do a more or slower version of moving that slider over. I'm just going to click in the value instead of typing a number, unless I know what number I want. I'm just going to hit the up arrow key and that will jump the value 0.10 at a time. So that way I'm gradually bringing that value up and I can start to see that's in the neighborhood of where I want to be, maybe right about there. And then I'm going to stop there. I'm not looking even caring about the number because I'm looking at the image and I'm not going too far with the slider. All right, next up, I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, that's about where I want to be. And I'm going to go ahead now and adjust the contrast a bit, because by adjusting that, the contrast, as you can see, got much lower when I pulled it that way, got much better when I pull it to the right. So same thing, if I thought I needed to do it gradually, then I would just go ahead and hit the up arrow key in the numbers. But that's about where I want to be. Since this is a landscape, I normally don't adjust clarity on people, unless it's a guy. I don't adjust clarity on female subjects because it just makes the skin too hard. But on landscapes, you can go for it. So we'll bump up the clarity just a bit. It gives it a little bit more punch. And of course, make the colors a little bit more vibrant, like so. And because it is a landscape, I normally don't touch saturation on people. But because it is a landscape, I can also just go to saturation just a tad bit higher. Now, again, all of those sliders can easily be overdone. If you overdo it, it'll just look too green. It'll look too vibrant. It'll look too crazy, too crazy sharp. So just gradually move those over, or just a little bit, or start out at maybe 5 or 10 for each one and then go from there. Now, even though we're not looking at the sky in this image, I haven't met an image yet that couldn't handle a little dehaze. So let's just, again, this is one of those I easily overdo. So let's hit the up arrow key, and I usually start this maybe at 10. I've learned that I'm good within the range of 5 to 20 on dehaze. Anything over 20 is neighborhood for overdoing it. Maybe about 15, and that just takes that atmospheric haze out of that, because you got a lot of haze and water coming up from this waterfall, so it's going to be naturally hazy anyway. Anything that the water is in front of is going to look like it's cloudy or hazy. This kind of just removes some of that out of your image. Okay, so we've done a few things. Let's show you where we were. That's where we were, and this is where we are now. And all of this is non-destructive and undoable and readjustable. And history, by the way, is ongoing. So everything I ever do to this image will be maintained in history. I can always jump back to a particular setting and say, okay, I want to go from there. Or I want to go from here. Or I want to go from here. So I can always go back and see every little thing I've done to this image. But if you can see as a, let's see, what do I want? Before and after, that's quite a bit of a difference. That's out of the camera, no adjustment, and I kind of wouldn't want to use that. That one I would put up on the wall. So you get the idea. All right, so with that said, let's go out and see what else we can do. We had a little fun with that one. Here's a situation where this was one of those, we pulled over on the side of the road, only had a few seconds, few minutes, not seconds, but I just didn't feel like switching lenses and getting a wide angle lens and getting all set up to take this shot. So I just did the next best thing. Click, 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 click. Took 4 frames with some overlap so that I could stitch them together and make that nice wide panorama shot afterwards. All right, so we got the 4 shots here. And again, this can be done in Photoshop. It can be done in Camera Raw. It can be done now in Lightroom. And Photoshop has some advantages to stitching panoramas together, like content-aware fill. And Lightroom has some advantages too. So let me show you the Lightroom version. So if I go to my library, or I'm sorry, if I go to my, or just right click on it. I'll right click on these 4 images and go to Photo Merge. You can either just do Control M or Panorama. So Control M for merging panoramas together. All right, as soon as I do that, it will create a preview to show me what I will get and let me make some adjustments before I commit to it. And this is what typically happens with me in panoramas, especially if I'm not using a tripod. And this was one where I didn't get the tripod out either. I literally just rolled the window down and took those 4 shots. I didn't even get out of the van. So you're going to have that because you're moving the camera up and down, even though you're trying to hold it as steady and in line as possible. You're going to have that it's not level. It's not, you're going to have that wasted space left over. And normally you would just do this. You would just crop and say, okay, I'll crop it down to the space that's usable, and that's it. But like I said, Lightroom has an advantage. Photoshop has an advantage. They both do these a little differently. The Photoshop advantage, or I'm sorry, the Lightroom advantage here is you have boundary warp now. So with boundary warp, watch as I'm going to drag it slowly so you can see what it's doing. But normally I would just drag it all the way over. All right, slowly look at the edges on the left, bottom, and top right. And it just warps it in to fill up that area so you don't have that wasted space that you would normally have to crop away. So that's boundary warp. In Photoshop, if you were doing it in Photoshop proper, it would be content aware fill. That would be an option when you're merging panoramas together now. All right, so once I say merge, you notice I get a progress bar in Lightroom now, and what that's doing is it's actually performing the merge in the background. So I can go on and do other things, but when it's finished, and we'll let it finish, it will create a brand new raw file from those 4 images that it merged together. So the 4 images will still be the 4 images with everything you can do to them separately, but you'll have a 5th image that is the camera raw or raw file that you can go on and work on. Uh-oh, what did I do here? Oh, a minute. Okay, that's fine. All right, so here's the finished image. I can take that into the develop module now. And with that one in the develop module, I can do the same kinds of things. I can enable the lens correction to fix that. I can go in and say that, hey, you know, the horizon may not be straight in this panorama, especially because I was hand holding it. It looks pretty good though. And I can say, you know what, straighten that out just a little bit. And then once I'm done with that, I can go on and do my other things. So let me check the dynamic range or have Lightroom tell me what it thinks it should be. I can go in and say, hey, you know what, bring up those blacks just a little bit more. Let's go ahead and get some clarity in that shot. Let's get some vibrance in that shot. We can really go a little crazier with the saturation. Not that crazy. Maybe something like that. And the hazy sky, I'm just not a fan of that, but let's see what we can do with the graduated filter. We'll grab our graduated filter and we'll switch it to dehaze. And it always defaults to, I think, 34 to start. You can always adjust it further. And then we just bring that down and get some more blue back in that sky. All right, so we can adjust that. We can pull that wherever we want, but keep it at the top. We can also angle that as needed. And the sky is, you know, it wasn't great, so it is what it is. I could also adjust the temperature of that graduated filter. I wanted to make it just a little bluer or a little colder for that area. And then that's it. Of course, there's more things I can do, but you get the idea that just taking that opportunity when you don't have the proper lens handy or on or, you know, set or with you, you can still get these kind of shots by stitching panoramas together. And the best part is you get a brand new raw file that you can, brand new DNG raw file that you can have full resolution and do whatever you want with. All right, next up, we talked about merging panoramas. Now let's merge an HDR. I think I have an HDR image I want to do here. So this is one of those situations where I'll show you the 3. I wanted to get the proper exposure for both the foreground and the background in the sky, or the midground in the sky. So I set my camera to bracket and I captured 3 exposures. So that's the medium exposure, the underexposed, and the overexposed shot. All right, so those 3 images I now want to put together so that I end up with a good foreground and a good background. See, look at the mountains in the background, look at the sky there, look at the foreground, and look at the, you know, how good the foreground and water looks here, but the sky and the mountain looks bad there. And of course, oops, that other one was something in between, or that was overblown. But anyway, I want to take those 3 shots and use those 3 shots together to create the properly exposed scene from top to bottom. All right, so let's go ahead and right click. We're going to do photo merge once again. This time we're going to say HDR. And we'll let that cook for a second. Calvin Hollywood in the house. Hey man, what's going on? Long time no see. All right, it's creating a preview, and I've also got it set to show me a deghost amount. Now, normally, if you're shooting a landscape that isn't moving, this isn't an issue. But what could happen is if you've got something moving in your landscape, or in your shot period, like a flag waving, or in this case, the water is moving, you could end up with a situation where it looks blurred or messed up because it's 3 exposures and it's trying to combine them together, so you could have a triplicate of something that shouldn't be triplicated. So deghost says, I'm going to highlight in red the areas of the image that moved when you took it. So that little area under the boat, little area around the dock, that was all moving because the water moves. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and say merge. That will, again, in the background, just like the panorama, it will create that, and I could go on and keep doing other things while it's working. So you can even create multiple panoramas or multiple HDRs and let it go on while you continue to do other things. All right, Brandon, you're not liking the mic EQ? Sorry about that, buddy. Bake Like a Pro's in the house. What's going on? All right. So we've got our finished HDR. I can see it was like, which one's which? It's the one that it calls HDR. So it will put that name in there so you know what the final one is. All right, so now, it's not to say that just because you got a properly exposed image that it's perfect. You'll still need to make adjustments to it. But now you've got one that is completely, you're starting with the proper exposure. So real quick, let's go into the develop. And lots of things here I'd want to do to this image. First of all, we're on an angle. We're like leaning. The horizon line is totally crooked in this shot. And it's not a good thing. It wasn't on purpose. The boat's going to fall over eventually. All right, so let's go ahead and fix that. Now, like I said, you can adjust the crop just by rotating, but since we do have a distinct horizon line, you could try auto. Sometimes auto will fix it, sometimes it won't. It fixed it that time, so I just clicked auto and it fixed it automatically. If it didn't fix it automatically, let me undo it. Then I could drag the angle tool and just drag it out along what should be straight. So that's if it can't detect it, you can fix it yourself. All right, so what's that? What that then gives you is your very straight horizon. All right, next up. And same thing here, so we're gonna go in, make sure we get our lens transformation, we're gonna enable that, kind of take out the bowing in the image, getting that fixed right off the bat. And then same thing, it kind of made some adjustments for me based on the HDR. I may not stick with them, I probably won't. So same thing, I'll just double click the white and black and see if I like those better. I like I'm gonna go a little bit more on the black. The white was okay, just a little bit more blacks in that area. All right, and same thing. I won't go too far. It depends on if those areas are important. Let's see if they are, they're not. That's okay. And let's give it a little bit more contrast. So you can go crazy with the contrast. That's too far. A bit more saturation. A bit more clarity. We can definitely use some dehaze on this shot. Effects, dehaze. And again, I'll start at 10. 10 looks good. 15 looks good. That's probably about where I'll stop. Probably anything more than that would be too much. But I'm still not happy with the sky itself, so we'll use the same graduated filter trick. And it's already set on dehaze, and now we'll apply a separate adjustment just for the top of the image. And we'll give that's too much, a little bit more dehaze in that area. Now I could also paint using the adjustment brush for the sky, but I think that looks okay. All right, next thing is, it's kind of distracting me right here, is this little speck of whatever this is in the water. So that's a great use for the spot removal tool. We'll just click that spot, bam. Takes that right out, and that one as well. And I see one more there, or maybe that's something on my monitor. Nope, that was it. All right, so again, going from that, or going from that, before, after. And that is how we end up with that. All right. Okay, moving on. We're out of time. Let's see if I got time for one more real quick one. Ah, yeah, this one's kind of cool. This will be kind of cool and kind of quick, and something I don't often get a chance to show. I took a picture of this door, and I just wasn't at the right angle. The door looks like it's doing this. It's just coming down at a very weird angle and just not straight on. I could have, it's kind of like walking by and shooting the door. I wasn't really trying to, take the best door shot in the world, but the perspective of this door is just completely off. So what I can do, again, take it over to the develop module. I think I shot this one with the iPhone and using the Lightroom camera. So let's look at the lens calibration. Yeah, so it applies it automatically. So that's already been applied. iPhone 7, 7 Plus, lens correction already applied. But let's go in and go to transform. Because with transform, I have upright. And I can try auto. And auto does a pretty good job. But let's say you want to be in control of how it's going to fix the perspective. Then what you can do is go in and change to guided. Here, let me clear my guides here. Hang on for a second. I had already done this earlier as a test. Can I fix the guides? Let's reset it. There we go. All right, let me go to guided. All right, there we go. So what I can do is I need to tell it at least two angles that should be straight, or should be, vertically straight or horizontally straight. So I'll start with this one that's very off on the left side, and I'll just start dragging out this guide that happens automatically and line it up to what should be straight. Nothing will happen when you give it the first guide. So the first guide is irrelevant because it needs two guides to work. Now I can either do it on this side here, which is already pretty decent. It's off just a bit. So let's go ahead and just fix that. And you can have more than two guides, even though it takes two to work, and it will work with two. Now that I got the vertical line straight, the problem is the door is still a little crooked that way for me. So I could go in and I could say, you know what? I would still want you to straighten this as well. And it will adjust that accordingly. So that way you end up with something that is in perfect perspective based on what you told it should be. And then you can go do all the other things you would do to make that door look great. All right, that is all of our time. We used 30 minutes and I was only going to use 20 today, but hopefully you guys got something out of this and you will go make your ordinary photos a little bit more extraordinary. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Before we go, I got one more. This is one more that I made sure I set this up just so I'd be able to show you, and we'll just go over another minute or two. Here's a video. And of course, you can bring your videos into Lightroom and look, oh, there's a video of my drone flying around this lighthouse. That's pretty cool. Well, what I really wanted, I got the video. That's great. But what I wish I had is I didn't stop to take a still. So I'm getting the back of the lighthouse out onto the water. And I just don't have a still of that. But I got this great 4K video. Let's see what we can do with that. Let's go into let's go to back to grid. Click on the video, that would help. And then go to loop view, letter E. And when you go to loop view, you can get some very, very, very rudimentary basic editing, which means you can trim. That's about it. So very, very basic. But I could scrub through this and I can get to this spot that I really want it as an image. And then over here on the right-hand side, you've got this little widget. And what this little widget lets me do is capture a frame. In other words, take what we're looking at right now, turn it into a still, put it right next to the video. So the video stays intact, nothing happens to the video, but you're basically taking this and you're making a still at whatever the resolution of the video is. So the better your video quality, the better your still will be. So if I go ahead and do that, capture a frame, and I just saw it pop in there, there's my still frame from that video that I can now do whatever I want to do with it. So that is built in to Lightroom, just basically the ability to take any video, and I encourage everyone to shoot more video. You guys have every camera you own, just about, I'm guessing, can shoot video, so why not? Especially your newer cameras that shoot 4K, because now what I ended up with was an image that is 3840 by 2160. That's pretty decent. That's a few megapixels, you know, compared to back in the days when video really wasn't that high res. So we got our one more thing. So now from there, I can go into the develop module. I don't know that this will come with a lens correction profile. Probably not, maybe. Oh, no, it did not. But if I knew what I shot this with, which I did, I shot it with a DJI, not the Inspire, but the Mavic, then I can fix it based on that manually. So I can choose the profile even though it didn't auto-detect it. And then I can go from there. Pretty cool. It's got a solar panel, which, by the way, you would never have seen without the drone, because you can't approach this lighthouse from anywhere but the water. So unless you get out and get on the land and go around it, you would never know that that was up there. I just showed you something you would have never seen anywhere in the world except right here. All right, fun times. Okay, so with that, that was my last thing for the day. I'll be back next week for more. Hope you got something out of this. Hopefully you will. Didn't mean to end on that. Hold on, hit the wrong key. There we go. All right, again, hopefully you got something out of that. And you will take just a few, as you can see, just a few extra seconds with your images to make them just that much better. And of course, if you shot video, being able to take that video and grab some of the stills out of it for things that you might not have managed to shoot stills of. Bake Like a Pro, I hope to post this as a recording, or I recorded it, so I hope to post this on my YouTube channel, and hopefully other places as well. So with that said, everybody, again, thanks for watching. I'll be back next week for more, and stay tuned. Cheers, everybody.